Hey folks, this is Matt once again, and I wanted to talk about this film that I feel is very underrated, and it's a film called Mindhunters. Now, that says right there, for an elite team of FBI profilers, hunting a serial killer is a process of elimination. Their own. Now, Mindhunters, if you haven't heard of Mindhunters, which is unfortunate, but at the same time, it's understandable, because the film, well, I'll get to that. It's directed by Rennie Harlan. If you're a fan of Rennie Harlan, you should definitely see this film because it's I think one of his best films. Definitely one of the most underrated films Rennie Harlan has done. And the cast includes LL Cool J, which he's actually good in this. So Johnny Lee Miller, Catherine Moores, Val Kilmer, and Christian Slater. And basically, the film is about you have this group of FBI profilers in training, and Val Kilmer is the head of the group, and he basically sends them on this last training mission where they go onto this island that they have. And this island is like a little fake town, fake dummies and mannequins, and it's like a training ground for other groups of people use it for training grounds, and they're using it for pretty much the weekend, I think, to they faked a scenario where okay, here's this killer called the Puppeteer, and at this time tomorrow you don't find a crime scene. I want a profile of this person by Monday, and supposedly Val Kilmer leaves, and um, before they go on there, LL Cool J, he arrives to join them to see how they work and stuff like that, and basically as they're doing it, they find the fake body. But then a booby trap is set and one of their own is killed. And then they realize there is a killer on the island, and not only that, it's setting these booby traps and these clues, and it could also be someone in the group. And I'll get to more spoilers, but I want to set that up in case for people who haven't seen this film to check it out. This film, the unfortunate thing about this film, it's very well done. I think the acting, the set, the location is creepy. I like the way the island with all these creepy looking mannequins, set up. Just a great looking island. I don't know how else to put it in the facility. This film cost like 20 some million bucks, and it looks like it would have been double or triple. Like, the money, it looks well shot. It looks, Rennie Harlan knows how to shoot these kind of movies. The cast do a bang-on job, except one or two people, which I'll mention. But for the most part, they do a great job. Val Kilmer and Christian Slater are not in the film that much, just to warn people, so they're not in the film that much. But what I like about this film is it goes, not only does it go in a good pace, but it tells a story, I think, well. I know a lot of critics, complain about it, but I think it's a thriller that does its job. It looks great, it sounds great. The cast do a more than capable job. The booby traps are well done and at times gory. You have one person who gets frozen, you know, uh, and he starts breaking apart. He actually falls back apart and breaks off in a gory fashion. One guy who thinks he shoots, but then there was something in the gun and blows back into his head. Um, there's one where they're into cigarettes and they realize that the cigarette is actually laced with some type of acids, or they're burning up. And even Rennie Harlan read up he didn't want to use a lot of digital because he knows that can take people out of the movie, which I appreciate Rennie Harlan for doing that. um, his the killer's MO is like these watches, and he'll like send them a watch with a time, and that's apparently the time when someone's going to die. And it just goes at a really good. It's a well shot film. This being on the island, a sense of isolation, so you get a little bit of the paranoia, a la John Carpenter's The Thing. When it's done well, I always like those kind of films. This is the film that ICU should have been with Stallone. I love ICU. I love ICU because Stallone's performance and the score. Like if I compare, I love the score to ICU more. I love Stallone's performance. I enjoy the location with the cold and the snow, but it was the director and the editor. The directing editing was piss poor, and there was no gore. That's my problem with ICU. This film doesn't have as many problems. And so it makes me sad, okay, Rennie Harlan has worked with Stallone before. It would be, watching this film, you're like, man, I wish Rennie Harlan had done ICU. Even though, I think ICU, came out before this. I'm not sure when ICU came out with Stallone, but I know it was done, and then it was shelved for a few years. But you have a similar fashion where you have a group of law enforcement officials who are being killed one by one by a killer, and you get that sort of paranoia. Who can you trust? A la John Carpenter's Thing or many other films. Like, who do you trust? Who's real? Who, like, not who's real, but like who is the killer? Who's not the killer? Uh, I mean, this film ultimately came out in, I believe, 2002. And this film was set for release in 2003, ultimately came out in 2005. So, it's like, Rennie Harlan, if you want to do it, you should have done, ICU, you know? That would have been cool if you did ICU. Would have been nice. Because ICU was, or like, instead of Driven, do this film together, folks, with you guys together. But yeah, it was just a shame that didn't happen, because if you took Stallone's performance and the score and you put it in this film, I'll say that it would be one of my favorite movies ever, to be honest. But still, it's a very solid, very well done film. Yeah, it was set to be released. ICU was set to be released in November '99 or May 2000. So it was many years before this film came out. Again, that's just a shame that, Jim Gillespie had that movie. He should have gotten Rennie Harlan, because he's worked with Sly before. But anyway, enough of that. Again, I love ICU because of Stone's performance, but this is a better made film. Definitely a better edited film. The mystery works better in this film. The surprises work better. I just, take Stallone and put him in that movie. I like Yellow Cool J, but, put Stallone right there. Boom. One of the best movies ever. But instead of repeating myself, what I like about this film, though, it does well with its surprises. One of the guys who did the script is actually Wayne Kramer. That's the guy who directed Running Scared with Paul Walker, among a few other films. He was going to direct Bullet to the Head, but then left the project. And getting to more spoiler heavy, what I like about the movie is, like, at the beginning of the film, you think, okay, yeah, Christian Slater and this girl, and Christian Slater, okay, they're on this job, they're hunting this person down, they go into this house, oh shit, things are going wrong, they're dead. But then, no, it's part of a training exercise. And, Val Kilmer said, you got your partner killed, and this and that, basically you guys fucked up. And then that's where you go to the island. And again, the way these guys are picked up one by one, like Christian Slater, I said this is spoiling warning, folks. Christian Slater is the first to go on the island because they find the fake body. There's a radio on, they turn it off, and then this, what do you call that? Not nitrous, but hydrogen, and just these gas tanks go and freeze Christian Slater's legs, and he falls back and frees the rest of them, and it breaks off. Really gory fashion. That's what ICU needed. It needed those creative kills. But Jim Gillespie, he doesn't like gore. Damn, should have got Rennie Harlan do it then, damn it. But and then try to find who the killer is. I like that. It keeps the suspense going, keeps you guessing who's the killer and who's not. I think they did a good job in that in this film. Um, and when each kill happens, but also when you have little bits of action, like LL Cool J trying to save this guy in a wheelchair, the floor is now electrified, and you have to climb on the pipes and stuff. You have some really tightly edited, um, thrilling sequences. And then when a booby trap happens, you go, oh shit, cool. You know, give Jigsaw a run for his money. And I thought the ending was well done too, so I'm gonna spoil it just so you know. There's a bit where you think Val Kilmer stayed behind, but then he's actually been killed, and there's a really nasty, not gore, but it's one of those scenes where they find Val Kilmer's body. He's been hung like he's a puppet, and like something plays, and like he's this vice is moving him like a puppet. It's a creepy looking scene. And then like you think this one guy gets killed, played by Johnny Lee Miller, because he gets shot to shit. And so you think it's either LL Cool J or this girl, and LL Cool J and Johnny Lee Miller pops back up, and they have a nice fight, really well done fight scene. And then you think LL Cool J is the killer, and then you realize that Johnny Lee Miller is the actual killer. And I was not a fan of Johnny Lee Miller. I mean, he did okay, but he really tries hard to have this really southern accent. Well, I don't know. Like he really tries hard to have this southern accent, like he's from Texas or something like that. What sucks though, especially after reading that a guy they wanted was Gerard Butler, but instead Gerard Butler did Timeline, and I would much rather see Gerard Butler, you know, as this guy here, and then being the bad guy. That would have been cool, Gerard Butler. Would have liked him seeing him more than Johnny Lee Miller. That's just my opinion. But Johnny Lee Miller just had a bad accent, and I just wasn't the biggest fan of the guy, to be honest. But I think LL Cool J held his own. Satisfying ending. Doesn't do any bullshit stuff at the end, or the killer's still alive, or bullshit sequel bait. LL Cool J and the girl get on the helicopter and ride off into the sunset. Just what it needed it to be. And I just think this is effective, solid thriller. It's a cool premise. FBI profiles on an island for training. They get picked off one by one. It's that classic story of 10 little Indians, or, and then there were none. These cool booby traps. When there's gore and kills, it happens very well. It's wonderfully shot. I mean, it's Rennie Harlan. He knows how to film a camera. You have a little bit of CGI, but it's mixed in with practical, which is how it should be done. There's not tons of digital. The cast, for the most part, works. I mean, Grant, I wasn't the biggest fan of John Lee Miller. I would like to have seen Gerard Butler in that role instead of him doing Timeline. But the rest of the cast, I like the lead girl. I think did fine. I think it's Catherine Moores is her name. She did fine. LL Cool J I liked. Time's up, asshole. Uh, I will admit, I would like to have seen Christian Slater in the film more, but maybe that was the point. Like, oh, it's Christian Slater, and then he's the first to die. Maybe that's oh shit. You didn't think he would be the first to die. Uh, but I don't. Yeah, other than John Lee Miller, I don't really have problems with this film. It's the editing, the mystery of who the killer is. I think is handled well. It does a solid job trying to keep it surprises. And what's a shame about this film, before this was set to be released in 2003, I think around April 2003, then 2004, and the film was pushed back to June 2004. Now, they had test screens in this film, and they were positive. You go on IMDb, this gets a 6.2. That doesn't seem like much, but considering there's a lot of movies that are 5s and 4s, and 6.2, pretty decent, you know. It deserves higher, but 6.2 is still pretty decent. And because they said that even though they got positive test ratings, they wanted to push it back to improve their marketing. And apparently, at one time, the writer actually sold this to 20th Century Fuckface, and then for some stupid reason, they said, "No, we don't give it a dimension. We don't care." Great job, Fox. Of course, it's a good movie. Shit, we don't want it. Sorry, but maybe that's what it is. I don't know. But then Dimension. This is when Dimension Films had there were tons of layoffs in Miramax and Dimension. This is when that Miramax and Disney split out. You know, Disney went this way, Miramax went this way. Um, and then once that finally got completed, because like, no, you know, maybe we own this, maybe you own that. We're not. It's not going to happen until we get it settled. And then finally it did, and then they just released it. You know, in 2005, with not much promotion. And Dimension has fucked up good movies too. There's a film called Below that David Twohy did. Cool ghost story in a submarine. You know, they fucked that movie up, you know, releasing it. Equilibrium with Christian Bale, prime example. Equilibrium is an awesome action movie. I think there's a review on this channel for it. Awesome action movie. And of course, Dimension didn't know what the fuck they were doing. They released it in a shitty fashion. You know, you're too damn worried about Scream movies, Dimension, or making those Hellraiser sequels and Children of Corn sequels. But you can't give this any good promotion, so no one knew the fucking movie was coming out. And oh, it's 2003, then 2005, and then people hear, oh, must be because it's a bad movie. No, because you guys fucked up. Mindhunters is a really good film. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. If you're a fan of thrillers, if you're a fan of the idea FBI profilers on an island getting picked up one by one in creative ways, and if you're a fan of Rennie Harlan, you're a fan of thrillers, it's well shot, it's well made, it's well edited. The cast, other than, again, I'm not a big fan of John Lee Miller, but the rest of the cast do a great job. Very underrated film. Very underrated flick. Worth your time. Mindhunters. And there's a commentary with Rennie Harlan. There's a little feature called Profile Mindhunters, a little feature about the film. A stunt sequence. Directors walk through Crime Town. That's the area they have for the island. Mindhunters is definitely worth your time. So, thanks for watching. Take care. Feel free to check out this very underrated film. And we'll see you later. Ciao.